Artlist.io.
Phone started jumping, what a day. Swear to God I need it now, I can't afford to wait. I just had a fan hit me up from Kuwait. Told him this would happen and we not a minute late. Seen him down bad, now they tryna hate. Same ones try to hit me for the raise. Got a mill, now they coming with a blaze.
Music licensing reimagined.
I'm a Don just like the Perrier. It's one time when I'm looking at a face. On the low like I'm pushing up the bass. Told him come down and I'll meet him at a gate. Got a check and I bought myself a place. They get some money and they blow it on bait. I don't flex but I'm pushing all the weight. Told them all I swear I got it's what it takes. Phone started jumping, what a day. Swear to God I need it now, I can't afford to wait.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day, and welcome to the eCarrierCheck show. I'm jacked today, man. We've got an incredible guest, and honestly, you know what this guy's selling? This guy's selling love and relationships. That's what I'm telling you. He's selling us. That's all I need. He's selling. There's a swipe left and right button on his software. I swear to God. But I'm super jacked. Josh is on today. We'll be talking to him in a second. Nate, obviously, we're midweek. We're hump day. And I'll be honest with you, this week I have felt, this is just my feeling. I'd like to get your feeling. I have felt more traction this week in talking to users, in shippers. I've made some cold calls with some brokers. I've just felt some good traction. I feel like things are turning, in my opinion. It's just the way the week is going.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, it's Wednesday. I didn't even know how we got here. Our phone has been going off like crazy just with questions, right?
Yeah.
Questions because we know things are starting to change or turn around.
Yeah.
So it's been a hell of a good week, in my opinion. Yeah. Like I said, it just went by so fast. We're already here.
Yeah.
Today's a special day. I'm excited to talk about, Salesdash today. We talk with a lot of new freight brokers coming into this industry. And, Josh, can't wait to hear from you, but everyone doesn't know what a CRM does, right? So I know you're going to shed some light on that today.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for today. Yeah. It's going to bring a lot of value to the community here.
I got to tell you my CRM story, Josh, and you're going to find this very entertaining. Okay. So I come from Tiffany's. I used to work at Tiffany & Company, and this would have been like, just to date me a little bit, because you don't have hair, so we can't tell if you're like 7 or if you're like 26, right? We can't tell. We don't even know what's going on. But so I used to work at Tiffany & Company, and this was the most interesting company to ever work for. Just you're selling huge jewelry. People are spending some crazy cash. But the last year I was there, and this would have been like 07-ish, 08, right in there, they flowed their old like AS400 system into Salesforce, right?
Okay.
And if you think about that, like if anyone even knows what an AS400 system is, it's like that old green screen, crazy operating system that people used to use. In fact, I think people still use them to this day. That they work, right? But Salesforce, somehow integrated into their system. And what was cool about this was if I sold a ruby ring to a lady or a ruby earring to a lady or a ruby bracelet, and I told I missed the AS400. See, DIY knows what I'm talking about. Like this, that's dating you. I'm not gonna lie, or dating us for that matter. But anyway, so I would put my information in there. I'm like, oh, Anna just walked in, and the more information I put into this thing, it was phenomenal. Like I'd be like, oh, what? This is Anna, and it would tell me, hey, she bought ruby rings. Her friggin' left rings is a size 6.5. Her birthday is next month. She's an Aquarius, and I knew more about this lady in a kind of a creepy way than anything. It was phenomenal. In fact, even to the point, this is how beautiful it was. It would like, hey, you log into your CRM every day, and it would be like, Anna hasn't bought anything for 3 months and she loves rubies. You should call her. And it was just this phenomenal experience with the CRM. Now, not everyone's Salesforce, right? But here's what I love about you. And I really want to start somewhat all over is, I want you to tell us who you are. Because, for the love of God, you used to work at Tesla. Mm-hmm. You were Elon Musk's right hand. We got to hear the story, brother. What, Josh, tell us who you are, man. Like, we want to hear it all about you. What's going on?
Yeah, not exactly his right hand. I also didn't know you came from the jewelry space, which is good to hear. We may have to talk about that sometime because I've got some friends that are in that space. I was actually just talking to two of them yesterday, both with their own different companies.
Okay.
But yeah, I actually kind of more so got my start in sales at New Balance, which was a pretty cool, unique experience. The reason why I say that, it's like not your typical shoe shopping experience when you go there with the ones that we worked at, because you would watch people walk, you would scan their feet to, see their arch types, you would tie their shoes for them. It really didn't matter the age, like if you're a kid, if you're 20s, 30s, 40s, or if you're just a elderly human. So you would always, so it was just hands-on service, right? Like white glove, I guess, in the shoe space, if there was anything of that nature.
Real quick,
and
are you a feet guy then?
I don't know. What do you mean by that?
We'll move on.
There's a lot of different ways. It's Valentine's Day too, Jared. You can't be bringing that stuff up. But no, I mean, oddly enough, I know more about feet issues because like that was kind of just what we did. We helped people solve foot problems. So we worked with local podiatrists. So that was just kind of part of the thing. So from there, that's when after I left New Balance is when I went to go work for Tesla. So I started off in sales with them as a product specialist. Basically what a product specialist did, I worked in a mall at Lenox Mall in Atlanta. That location's no longer there, but we had 2-3 cars in the showroom. Typically at any point, people would walk in, they'd question why is there cars in the mall, and we would just educate them about electric vehicle technology and what Tesla did and where we were going. So it was before the affordable models or more affordable models that Tesla has now. The Model 3s and the Model Ys were out, and yeah, that was kind of like what helped, I would say, my sales career take off, is from being in that organization. There's a ton of talented people. I got into more of a sales advisor role after the product specialist role, and then got into management. While I was in management, I got to talk to Elon twice on 2 of our regional calls, kind of at end of quarters and whatnot. But just a really cool experience, man. I'm still very close with people that I worked with there. And I mean that those days set myself up for success for, I think what I'm doing today.
I love that. So you obviously have a CRM, take us to, I mean, the most basics here. Yeah. At a 30,000 foot view, what does CRM stand for, and what's the point of it?
Yeah, so it's customer relationship management software. And I think the easiest way to think about this is for a business to function, you have to have customers, right? You have to have revenue coming in. And it really kind of depends on the nature of your business. And we'll obviously talk about it specifically to freight, but you have interactions with a lot of people. You don't close all your deals. You actually lose the majority of, your customer interactions. It's just the truth in most sales, unless you have a really unique product and maybe you're more monopolized, if anything. So with that, and even like you talking to people from the jewelry store and their birthday, where you build real relationships is by getting to know people and who they are, what they do, what their family situation is. And that was a lot of what we did at Tesla, was to understand what their motivation was to buy the car. We kind of bucketed it in 6 different categories, and you really wanted to understand that because you want to talk with them about the things that they care about and the things that they're interested. Everybody buys for their own specific reasons. And so from a relationship level, you want to know how to communicate with somebody. You need to know their backstory. And then one of the most important components of sales is follow-ups. And so CRM systems help, in basically the continuous conversation and communication that you have with those individuals. And it's kind of like your Rolodex. So you were kind of dating back to the AS400. I came across this story that I saw about the Rockefeller family and one of the primary guys for them. And they were actually talking about one of the reasons why he was so successful is because he actually had a Rolodex. And in that Rolodex, he kept track of kids' names, family members' names, birthdays, all that kind of stuff. And I was going to share that video at least at one point, but that's ultimately, I think what helps people, advance in sales and obviously just relationships. So I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place now when it comes to that, but in the simplest form, it's knowing who you've interacted with, when you interacted with them, what you spoke with them about, and when you're going to speak to them next.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, a lot of good stuff right there.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and honestly, CRMs here help you stay accountable, with your pipeline. We talk about pipelines and relationships almost every week. So
all the time.
I'm glad you hit on that.
All the time. I can't get enough of it. With CRM, you are extremely proactive. You follow every step info and
exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's the nugget. I think what's unique about you, Josh, is you've obviously spent some time in freight. Give us a rundown on that. Like what'd you do? What were you moving? How was life in the freight world?
Yeah, so two really unique kind of separate experiences. The first one was for One Point Logistics underneath Keep Truckin', who now goes by Motive. And that was kind of a company that was playing a pretty big, just like go after market share, revenue grab a lot. And that was a really cool, unique experience for me because that's where I came from Tesla. I honestly didn't even really know much about freight brokerage. It was just a really cool, unique opportunity because the brokerage was owned by an ELD company and there was that like they necessarily didn't have everything connected in regards to what that relationship was going to look like. But there was a very cool, unique selling proposition and opportunity down the road if there was some connections able to be made with all the trucks that Keep Truckin' had in their network with ELDs and that kind of stuff. So that was really their, potential unique differentiator, but that got shut down after just some internal things, more so with Keep Truckin' and them coming out with some of their own products and whatnot. And then the second brokerage that I was with, Silo, they're based here in Nashville, which is where I live right now. And they're a more niche brokerage that focuses more in the open deck space. So a lot of flatbed, hot shot, step deck, freight that they're moving over dimensional, some heavy haul stuff. And, learned a lot of really good things because like when you focus in a specific area and you become more of an expert, servicing a specific kind of, type of freight in that instance, I do think it makes selling a lot more simpler when you're just a lot more focused. That was something I had to do with the CRM, was eventually just narrowing it down to freight only, which is something we did last year, kind of like midway last year. And but going through that experience was great because I came into freight not really knowing anything about it. I actually came in as a sales manager, so I didn't even actually like start as a broker, like booking trucks or anything. I oversaw a team of 12 account executives, account managers, very focused in shipper sales. But when I first got into the space, I felt like it was just necessary for me to learn what it took to close a shipper. And so I also had to hire from scratch. And so I was just basically interviewing like half my day. And then I was just like cold calling with the other account executives that were in the company. And man, I remember some of those first ones, man, it was tough. You get shut down so fast and they're just not interested. Tons of no pickups, tons of left voicemails. But this is one of the coolest parts to me was I could have a really bad conversation and, just totally mess up on my intro or not even know like how to even respond to something that they just told me. I could call them back 2 weeks later and it was like they never heard from me. And so you can learn really fast. And every week I would just get better because you make a lot of activities, you make a lot of calls, or you should, to try to get new business. And so it was just, I learned by doing more so than anything else. And and then I think just that with the CRM in particular, I saw a lot of people sort of just spray and pray. And to me, attention to detail goes a really long way when you do get somebody on the phone. I think you should be really attentive to what you're learning about their business. And I think the just simplest, most important fundamental is the follow-up. So you got to have a good system to know, like, when do you think that you should be following up with them, whether it's call, email, however that may be. And that's ultimately where I'm just a big CRM nerd, is that I think that process is such a big part of the game.
I love CRM nerd stuff. But before we get into the CRM nerd stuff, what's the coolest thing you moved, or what was the craziest trucking story you got?
I mean, I think it was just more so like some of the project-based freight that we did at my last company that I was at. I mean, I don't want to like go, I guess, like super specifics about the customers, but there was just some really unique projects with whether it was like air handling units or transformers, with how heavy some of that stuff can get. Or just even the routing and the planning that goes into it, especially if it's over dimensional and heavy haul and all that stuff. There can be just a ton of planning that goes into that whole process, and just watching that happen was always really cool. There was some really cool projects, especially in that space, because sometimes, like, especially in open deck, it's not like you're finding trucks necessarily like directly in that area. You can get people to just deadhead pretty far. So there were some really unique stories in that aspect as well. So I don't have anything like one specific one, but I think a lot of it, if anything, was more of just like the projects and what it took to coordinate, all the trucks getting there on site in the right order at the right time with the right equipment. It's really cool. It was always really cool to watch the team execute on that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. The one of my favorite aspects of moving the heavy haul stuff was we were moving a bridge beam one time. It was 180,000 pounds. And that dude deadheaded from Dallas out to New Mexico to get this thing, right?
Yeah, there you go.
And they didn't want to lay it on its side. They wanted to ship it straight up. So this thing was 2 foot wide, but it was 13.7 tall, 180 foot long, and it weighed 100 and some odd thousand pounds. It was wild. And those conversations, getting the state patrol involved, yeah, it was awesome. A lot of fun and a lot of attention to detail. There's some fun stuff to move in this industry.
Yeah.
Oh man. Did you ever try to get back in, or did you try to go back to Tesla and see if you can move some of their stuff?
Yeah, at the first brokerage that I was at, it was cheaper freight. Yeah, they were very like cost, and it was just like big portal, tons of different carriers. It probably just wasn't going to be the best use of time. But it's cool. Ever since it was Salesdash and talking to some customers that move some cross-border stuff, and even just with Tesla building their most recent factory out in Austin, I know that there's been some opportunity out there. So I think that they'd be a good customer to kind of keep on your radar. But it probably is going to be really competitive one way or another.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's you get any of those mega shippers and hold on to your butt. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So what inspired you? When is that moment? You're sitting around, you're brokering flatbed only, or open deck stuff, and are you having dinner with your girlfriend, or are you at a bar, having a few beers? What was all of a sudden you were like, I'm building the CRM, I'm doing it. Like where were you at exactly? I know.
I was at a Starbucks.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's have that conversation. Tell me about the inspiration.
Yeah. I was at a Starbucks. It was after my first experience in brokerage, and it was just from frustration. But I mean, number one, I'd always my goal was always going to be to start my own business. I'd always told myself that when I was at Tesla, it wasn't necessarily to keep climbing the ranks there and, try to get into the same office with Elon. That wasn't my goal. I just wanted to gain the skills to go and build my own business. And so sales was one of those skills. Marketing was one of those skills, branding. And so I just didn't really know what the thing was. And it was really after kind of taking time after that experience where I was like, well, what are the things that I feel that I have pretty good knowledge of, that I feel that I'm stronger at than a lot of people, or just have a good understanding of. CRM was it. And it was kind of a wild idea at the moment, because I was like, all right, I know that there's a ton of them out in the market. But I just felt that there was a big opportunity for simplicity. It's really just the simplest thing, is that when I would talk to sales reps and knowing like how they're using the system and how the systems were laid out, I just felt that there was a really big opportunity for simplicity. And I honestly just like had a time period where I had time and I was still getting paid, but not necessarily like actively. That was getting transitioned over to the actual side of Keep Trucking. And I just basically took the time to figure out like what would it even take to develop software. So I talked to a wide variety of different software developers, engineers, and programmers, and found a web designer that after like I drew out my stuff on paper, like what it would take to do it. And it was just honestly like consistent action to try to see if it's even something that could become real. I really didn't know at that time if it could or couldn't. And then, after I left Silo, it was really getting to a point where I just got back to a point where I was like, I wanted to focus on it full time. And I had to really just spend time on strategy with my go-to-market, because we were for every industry, essentially, just honestly, it was more so that we pitched to small businesses inside sales teams. Didn't really matter the industry. And that was actually hurting like any kind of growth, because like we weren't speaking to a specific kind of customer. From a product development standpoint, you can go all over the place, because sure, sales is sales, but a real estate agent's going to need something different than an insurance agent's going to need something different than a freight broker. And coming from freight, it just made the most sense because I knew that world from being in it and overseeing a multitude of different salespeople, knowing what their challenges are, how complex the systems can be, how they're not customized for freight, and also how expensive they can be. So that to me is what made the most sense. And if you really want to know how I kind of like fully got to that point, so like February of last year was when I was like more so like prospecting out to brokerages to really see if that was really what I wanted to focus in. And then I kept hearing, I saw TIA get their Capital Ideas conference being promoted, and eventually I sort of like threw that into my cold calling pitches to see if people would be there. And I kind of built out like a number of different people, had probably close to like 10 phone numbers of people that I knew were going to be there, met up with some of them. And it was kind of after that conference is when I sort of made the decision to just make sure like everything just pivoted towards freight. So June last year was really when we, June last year was probably when we made the full blown brand transition, and haven't looked back. And it's been pretty awesome since. I feel like every day we're still getting started, and we still have a long way to go, but we made pretty good traction since that time period.
God,
that's
I love
awesome.
that. I love
that's
that.
Huge.
Woo!
I think what's soothing is you and Jared actually have a lot in common. You guys have been in this industry.
We're both really good looking.
You're both really good looking. I was going to get, but then you build tech and you understand the pain points of what others are probably going through. Yeah. And I think that's really soothing for people that are trying to come into this industry and see people like you guys. And be like, okay, they've been in my seat and they know what I'm going through. It's soothing to me. And Tire Killer is actually subbed to your channel. Yeah, Tire Killer, thanks for being here again, man. Great channel.
DIY?
Yeah. Or Tire Killer.
Yeah. He's
DIY, yeah. I can't read some days.
That's okay.
Charles Mundy, what's up, man? Kyle, thanks for being here. Josh, this one's for you. What makes Salesdash so different than other CRMs?
Yeah, so templated out of the box, it's already built for freight brokers. So like the sales dashboard's built for freight brokers. There's also a management dashboard just from a visibility standpoint, and tracking your shipper leads. For example, like shippers that you haven't contacted in the past 14 days, that kind of stuff. We also have the ability for you to add carriers. We found a good amount of people will add carriers or their top preferred carriers into their spreadsheets. And so we've added that. You can capture the lanes that you know that your shippers move, or that's a preferred lane for a carrier, and then search your database that's within your CRM to find potential matches. But the easy answer is honestly going to be simplicity of like how you're working through the screen from like left to right, top to bottom. There's basically just a lot of stuff that's removed that if you talk to a lot of people that go experience other CRMs, they'll say like, hey, these look like they're built, or they are built for companies that sell software. And that's very true. Most of them are built for a lot of people that are in SaaS sales. So we've just removed a lot of it, and just like really focused it within, freight brokerage specific stuff. So, within an account page for a shipper, you can capture the equipment types, the modes that they ship, the volume. We have like general pain points and stuff. So all that's already built in there from day one to help you sort of profile shippers that you're reaching out to. Are they the right fit for you based on what you service? With the, is the volume reasonable for you? The modes, the equipment types, does it line up with what you service? And then, from here, we're still like working on more product development that's going to be, just to simplify it, enhance the carrier side a little bit more, because that's really, really new on our end. We definitely have some more enhancements that we need to make there, but we're pretty excited about, what we're building over the next 3 months here. So I would just, it's going to be simplicity in the stuff that you see on the shipper sales side, and then also with a carrier element to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Charles, Charles and I were kind of thinking the same thing. Do you guys do demos, to kind of help people get familiar with the CRM, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We, it's pretty much what I do all the time. So if you go to our website, Salesdash CRM.com, you can schedule a demo. I'll host it, be able to talk to you, Charles. If you go and schedule it, we could take time to understand what you do. So I come across a lot of people that are typically in a few different situations, but either they're using spreadsheets, using the highlighting of like red, yellow, green highlighting of within the spreadsheets for people that they've even, been in touch with or not been in touch with. And then, we have people that they'll use like limited TMS features that will sometimes have CRM, like some CRM capabilities, but not too much, or other teams that just have a really complex CRM that can also be more expensive and not as tailored towards freight.
Yeah. And for my knowledge, you guys are affordable. Are there different price points, things like that?
Yep, pretty affordable, $39 a month per user if you subscribe monthly, and then we also offer a 20% discount if you subscribe annually.
Awesome. That's awesome. Tire Killer
asking what the differences are. A couple things. We're more of a sourcing platform than an accountability platform. We do have some concepts where we will keep you accountable from a kind of a task functionality in our platform, but not necessarily down to the bones like Josh here. So that's probably the biggest difference. At some point, we should probably connect our platforms. It'd be kind of interesting to run simultaneously holding hands over a beautiful green hilly,
right,
flower,
yeah, exactly,
which I would love.
You are in love today.
I am. I'm telling you, I'm just fired up. You know what I mean? I just get so excited. You know what I mean? Like, you're making a difference in relationships every day. Yeah. That's you're the king of Valentine's Day.
You're inspiring me to put out some marketing stuff that I was not honestly prepared for at all today.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, you're on it.
Yeah, Charles Bundy, by the way, this cat's an interesting dude. We were in his class last night, and he's just honestly, this guy is the godfather of teaching freight, teaching brokering, teaching dispatching. He's just incredible. You guys should connect behind the scenes. He's a really wonderful guy. And he's not far away from you. He's out in Richmond. So, or is it Richmond or? It's somewhere in Virginia. Yeah. I knew it was somewhere.
Charles, we might have to.
Yeah, I'll have to hit each other up. We'll get you
let's connect, Charles.
You can chat. So, when it comes to the freight industry, obviously you're talking to brokers consistently, but I got a soft heart. I got a heart for like owner ops. Mm-hmm. There's obviously a lot of owner operators out there. The brokerage space is growing and will continue to grow because of, maybe their aggressiveness to a certain extent. But I hear this a lot. Carriers need to find some direct shippers. Those owner operator guys, those things. What do you recommend to those guys when you talk to an owner operator, small carrier? What do you recommend to those guys, or how do we get them some more clients directly?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely starts by knowing like who you want to, like what kind of companies that you're trying to target. But so much of it's just going to be the follow-up. I mean, I think for them, like they kind of have an advantage. And I mean, especially for those that have been as like a non-asset broker, like, that if you have your own trucks, it instantly for the shippers, I think is always going to be more of a conversation that they're open to. So I think there's a really good opportunity for them to find direct shippers. I think that a lot of it that I see is they need to know the resources for where they can find leads. A lot of them will kind of just start from Google, which makes a lot of sense. But two resources to me that are like just make it so much simpler are Seamless.ai and Apollo.io. Just really simple they even have free plans where you can go in. I always recommend to start by location for the areas that they're trying to find freight out of. So start with the location, city, state, whatever that may be, or region. Depending on the equipment that you have, just basically filter down to the industries that move on that equipment type. So that's going to be a really, one of the important things, but you want to start there. I think the big part of it is just like the willingness to hop on the phone, email consistently, or go visit. It's a lot of it is just that. I mean, that's what brokers do all the time. So much of it is just having somebody on your team, whether it's yourself as the owner op, which for them, a lot of times like they love just driving. So they don't, they want somebody else to do that stuff, but having the individuals that getting somebody in place that's what they're dedicated to doing, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. They just got to continue to stay, consistent with those conversations is definitely, something that's unique on eCarrierCheck is we'll show you shippers that actually use owner operators. And
that's awesome.
And it's the most underutilized button on our entire platform.
Then you guys just need to go to eCarrierCheck. If it's right there.
Yeah, we should show you that sometime. It's actually kind of cool. We have hundreds of thousands of leads, and we sort it by carrier size, carrier, things like that. So I think that's kind of cool. Michael, we did know that was a railroad sign. We just thought it was kind of fun, just for the sake of throwing it up in there.
Charles, he's in Nashville.
Oh yeah, he is.
Thomas,
should you choose a niche within freight as a broker or a carrier? It's a great question, Josh. What do you got?
I'd say 100%. Shout out to Thomas. Thanks for watching, Thomas. I actually just texted him like right before this too. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. At the end of the day, for a salesperson, it makes it a lot easier when you're somebody that specializes in something versus somebody that does everything. Because it's a sales and marketing thing that, when you're selling to everybody, you're sort of selling to nobody. And when you're talking to customers, like, you want to make it really clear about where you can help them. If you just kind of tell them like, hey, I can help with everything, it doesn't really point them in the right direction. But I almost like attribute it to sort of like branding yourself as like the specific kind of person. Is it the specific equipment type or the specific product or commodity? Like, how can you give them assurance that you know what you're doing of like why you're actually reaching out to them? So, if you specialize in a specific type of like food, or if it's frozen beef, or just like a certain different kind of product. I mean, I think all that makes a lot simpler when you can speak to the challenges of what it may be of moving that kind of freight, right? There's always some challenges that come, shippers will have when it comes to moving a specific kind of freight. And I think if you can basically just find more of those customers that move that kind of stuff, it just makes it a lot easier. And then you can expand out, and they'll probably have other products and commodities that they ship to, and then eventually start moving that stuff, and you expand your services that way. But I do think as a salesperson, it just makes it a lot easier. And I think the reason why people don't niche down, and it was honestly what I did as well to start, was because you think that there's not enough opportunities out there, but there is. And it does make your ability to sell and market yourself so much simpler when you do that. At least that's my belief.
Totally agree. 100%. I think, it doesn't matter if you're a carrier or, a broker in any aspect. I really think that's really important that you follow that niche. You know what I mean?
I do have a question on back to the CRM, your CRM there. Let's say, for instance, Jared's overseeing 12 brokers. Is there a way for management to kind of oversee all these accounts and see what they're putting in? Because as manager, you got to really stay on top of that, make sure they're moving through their pipeline, things like that.
Yeah, so we make pipeline management pretty simple, straightforward. Pipeline management, for those that aren't super familiar with it, it's just really like, what are your most qualified opportunities? Which shippers have you talked to that you're most excited about because, they move reasonable volume? That they work with brokers. That's kind of important to know. You know who the decision maker is, and the equipment types and modes line up. So I think that's going to be like when you would sort of say like, hey, I'm adding them to my pipeline, because we find a lot of brokers will manage probably anywhere from 100 to 200 accounts, more at a broad range. Some people are below that, some people are above that, but that's kind of like typically the range that we sort of see, that we think is smart. And just from a visibility standpoint, you can run reports on your activities. So whether it's all activities, an activity would be call, email, text, visit, just a general note, anything of that nature. You can split it up, like say like, hey, I want to see how many calls we've made, how many emails we've made, or all activities combined in one. We even have people, sometimes they'll say, well, we want to see activities with customers and also activities with prospects, because sometimes, you may have brokers and like only calling their customers, or sometimes vice versa, only calling prospects and not calling the customers that they already onboarded. And, that's good revenue opportunity to try to expand those. So yeah, you have kind of a wide variety of different reporting and visibility on activities, like what's happening or what's also not happening. That stuff's important to know. So we make it simple. You can break it out by teams if you have multiple different teams, whether that's like you have multiple different sales managers, or if you have a sales team and an account management team, or, a shipper sales team and a carrier sales team. You could really break it out any which way and have visibility for a team dashboard or an individual dashboard.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Michael, hey, this is a question for you, Josh. In a nutshell, what are some tips to be the best freight broker?
Oh man. Spread love like Jared. Yeah. Shop with Jared.
Exactly.
I get
it. Man, I mean, I guess it like depends on what you're talking about when it comes to freight brokering, because there's a multitude of different things. But if we're really focusing just on sales in general, and the tips, I mean, to me, it's be smart about who you're targeting. I think that's first. Like, are you targeting somebody that you know that you can truly help and can speak to, some kind of expertise of like what they move and like calling with a purpose. The second thing is being consistent with your activity and your calls. The third, I think, is just trying to really understand what they do and focusing on them and not just like pitching yourself. You should really be focusing to learn more about their shipping operations. I think is super crucial. And it's so simple for people to be like, I do this, I service this, I'm the most trusted this in those situations, and not putting the focus on them, because I just think it's the simplest principle that if you've talked to shippers, like, that they get 20, 30, 40, 50 calls a day. And then on top, you have no idea how many emails they get a day, but they're just being pitched all the time. Yeah. So they don't really, to me, I don't know. I think having the mindset that they don't really give a damn about you. And if you can just focus on them and to learn what they do, like, that's what they want to know. They want their problems to be solved. They want their freight to be moved without issue. They want the updates and the communication. So just putting the focus on them and not you. And then this, going back to the simplest fundamental, just following up and doing what you say that you're going to do, I think is just big time. And I think it's just not overcomplicating what you're doing. Just that stuff. I think you can find success.
I agree 100%. And you said this earlier in the video where
there.
Yeah, stand up.
Just bring in the nuts right
All
there.
All right, we're done.
But you can mess up a phone call, and like you said, 2 weeks later you can call back.
Yeah.
And they probably won't even know who you are, and just make that call a bit better. And we hear this a lot. No one likes to be sold to either. So try to focus on them, and like Charles said, be an educated problem solver. How can you help them? And
just being different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the other day I heard the most interesting cold call I think I've heard in a while. And this guy is very charismatic. And the lady, he got to the shipping manager, right past the gatekeeper, got to the shipping manager. She goes, "How's your day?" And he goes, "Well, I just got done eating some wings and my hands are sticky, but pretty decent overall." And after that, she just kind of laughed and opened up. And it was just kind of unique to him and his style and what he does. But just being different, and it doesn't matter, somehow or another, you've got to find your way of being different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just being human. I think in that example that you're talking about there, Jared, is just, you're just being human, like it is fun and to talk and work with humans. This is a stressful industry. There's a lot of bad things that, that happen. Like, mistakes happen all the time. It's transportation. You can't avoid some of this stuff. It's kind of inevitable that stuff's going to happen. And so, just being honest, and I don't know, especially when it comes to sales, like, not putting on a sales voice, just having a conversation with them as if, you're, watching a TV show or like watching a sports game or something. I think sometimes people overthink that they have to almost like put on this face and this voice of somebody that they're not. And sales is just relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Really random question, just because I dig you, man. I find you very entertaining. So I'm gonna throw you into left field here. And everybody's like, what is he gonna talk about?
Yeah, what is he?
I have no idea right now.
Like, here goes our YouTube channel. Just but honestly, when was the last time a relationship surprised you?
Like, customer wise? Just going in general.
Personal or professional, either one.
I don't know if like surprise, I guess, is the right word, but you can definitely tell those that are really serious about their relationships because they'll give without expecting in return. I think that's the biggest thing, and like, that's relationships. And I'll share this story because I was actually texting this guy yesterday, one of my jewelry friends, and he's the president of a really big jewelry shop out of Atlanta. They've sold to pretty much like every rapper, music artist, even country music artist and athlete that you can pretty much think of. They've sold to a lot of them. And so him and his wife were my clients at Tesla, and I took them out to dinner before I left Atlanta to move to Nashville for Tesla, just because I wanted to learn from them. I knew I was going to get in entrepreneurship one day. It's family-owned business. They're super successful. and he shared a story with me about his early relationship with Ludacris, like when he was first kind of coming up with his jewelry shop. And basically what he shared and what I always kind of took from that is he's like, look, relationships are mutual, and if they're one-sided, it's not a real relationship, and typically those things get cut. But he's like, normally you're going to be giving something, and you'll also typically be receiving stuff in relationships. Like, that's how it works. It's mutual. It's not one-sided. And so that was always something that I took. And I think with that has always been to be willing to give. So like, when it comes to content, when it comes to like marketing and stuff, is there's a lot of education that's always needed to be had when it comes to sales. That's why you have so much sales content and marketing content, and all those things are like how to be successful as a freight broker. It's not that there, to me, is like always secrets. It's really about just adopting those behaviors for what's out there and educating people. So for me, I want to educate people on all the little corners of, using a CRM. Like, what is pipeline management? Why should you use a CRM over pen and paper or a notebook? Like, how is it actually going to make your life more efficient and help you increase sales to, get more revenue, get more customers? Like, those are the things I want to educate and teach people. And if they use my CRM, great. If they go and use one of the other ones, I know that's going to happen one way or another. Like, that's okay. There's an abundance of customers that I think are out there, but I think it's always like, just going back to your question, to prevent the long-windedness here, is just more so it's those relationships that I come across where people are just like willing to just like give, and you're like, all right, didn't really expect anything out of that conversation. Like, I've gotten off a couple calls with people that I meet, and then within like an hour, they're making an intro. And to me, that's impressive, and honestly something that I try to adopt myself. And really just truly not expect anything in return. I do think that piece is really important. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it doesn't. But just doing good by people, I think, goes a really long way.
That's awesome.
I loved that. Yeah. I love that. Plus, I love Ludacris.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan. He's dropping a new album in 2024. Pretty excited. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't dropped an album forever. Like, let's get a Ludacris album on here. We're just gonna friggin' share it, and we'll just not deal with the copyright issue.
Yeah, get him some exposure.
I love it. I love it.
Josh, you brought so much value in 42 minutes and 20 seconds. You guys connect with this guy. I threw his LinkedIn, his YouTube channel's on here in the description as well, as long as with his website. It sounds like to me, if you call Salesdash, you're gonna be talking with Josh. If you have questions, man, it's super nice to talk with the founder and the owner, you know what I mean? And you're not going to get the runaround or anything like that, right? So we get right to you, ask your questions, get a demo, go see what that CRM has to offer. And Charles is throwing his phone number there in the chat.
Yeah, you might snap a pic of that.
I don't know if you're going to put it on the screen, but I can do it.
Yeah, it's Charles.
Charles, you might get a weird amount of texting. Hopefully no spam.
I'll get a quick screen grab of it. Charles, I'll give you a call.
And there's his email. That sounds good.
Yeah, Josh, thanks for being on, man. Yeah. We appreciate it.
Of course.
We're definitely going to have to do a part 2. I'd love to talk about sales cadence and the way that all works.
Oh, let's do it. So
part 2, we'll come back at you at another, maybe we could get together on St. Patrick's Day, and I'll tell you how much luck you'll have. So I'm just dropping marketing dimes for you. There's a lot of luck in CRMs. Let's just get you back on St. Patty's Day. So
good deal. I appreciate you guys hosting. This was fun. This felt like, we were just kind of having a normal conversation. Didn't feel super podcasty format and whatnot. I honestly enjoy the energy that you guys bring and the questions that you guys ask. So you guys are doing a great job with this. This was a lot of fun.